What's your full name and where are you from?
Full name is Paul Mutuura, and actually was born and raised in Kenya, but and then we immigrated here when I was a teenager, and went to high school here, and just been here ever since.
And what was growing up in Kenya like?
Growing up in Kenya was fun. It's where I get my roots. I have a lot of family, so I grew up surrounded with a big family, pretty much, and just have really good memories. It's where my foundation was, and probably where I learned my love for business. I have a funny story that I had my first successful business at fourth grade, but my mom put a stop to that. But yeah, so I just have great experiences. That's kind of where my foundation is as a person.
What was the fourth grade business and why'd your mom put a stop to that?
Oh, the fourth grade business was my dad actually was contracted by for printing services by a marketing company. So he would print this store displays, and he had all these sketches and prints and stuff like that. And that business had ended a few years, had ended for a few years at that time. But he had all this stuff in the house, all these printouts that you could, they had like a sticky side, so they were like you could peel them off and stick them somewhere. So there was a bunch of them, and what we used to do. For us, I was in fourth grade, and what we call primary school there. What we would have is just sets where we would have our pencils, our pens, and our compasses and stuff. But people would love to decorate them, so you would put stuff on there, little stickers on it. So I put one of them on there, and then some kid just made a comment that, hey, you can sell those. And I didn't think twice about it. I don't know. I don't remember thinking twice about it. I just remember coming back and I started selling them, and they did so well. I used to have seventh graders coming into class. People like making a line. I actually got robbed and realized I needed security, but I would sell like one for like 1 shilling, and then like 10 of them for like a discount, economy of scale. And I was really banking. I was getting some money, and then eventually the principal heard of it, and everybody was upset, and my mom did punish me for that, and when she found out, but now she said maybe I did stop your journey a little too early.
So what's the best lesson that your father taught you and the best lesson that your mother taught you?
Well, my dad was very resourceful, and he was a business for as long as especially growing up in Kenya. He had a business there, a pretty successful business, and he did pretty well. And he's very well educated, and I really looked up to him. So, I think I saw how he could do little with nothing, and he could be very creative in solving problems. And I just really admired that. So I saw how he led our family and also financed our way to be able to come here when we got the green cards and all that, and financed the whole journey and get us here and get us set up. So he was a very responsible guy. And for my mom very supportive, very nurturing, very kind, and just how she treats people. To me, that's those two ingredients are kind of my makeup. Yeah.
And then taking
that's
that,
a really good question. Thank you for asking that.
Yeah. Taking that and then, bringing it over to a totally new world. So when you were a teenager was the first time you'd ever been to the United States? Would you consider yourself a third culture kid?
Yeah. And it's probably why, probably a big part why I do what I do, because it has a lot, marketing has a lot about connecting people. And I think having to be an outsider and understand how to connect with anybody, regardless of culture, dissecting into all those layers as humans and realizing what really connects us all, has helped me in my career as well. So yeah.
So when you first moved here, how did you apply that? What did that look like?
I'd not be able to apply that. It was a learning process. That's the journey I've been on. It was to understand that, because I think we all, without realizing it, can be very ethnocentric. And I think by through education, by learning the world, by visiting other places, you're able to really, it helps you understand more about our own humanity and how it transcends culture. So, yeah.
Humanity transcends culture. What do you mean by that exactly?
I think, at the core of our humanity, we're all the same. Culture is something that comes after that, and actually is something that we create to help us in how we communicate our whole humanity. So sometimes we get absorbed into the culture itself and not underneath language, which is universal. So, and that's been my part of me understanding that. My journey from Kenya helped me understand that, because I had my own understanding of the world and worldview, and it was a very small one, but that had to be challenged. And I think when you travel, it's definitely challenged without a choice. But when we don't expose ourselves, it is not challenged. So it can protect itself.
So take me through. So you're going through high school, you're adapting to the culture. What happens next? Where do you go off to college?
I came here, went to 3 different high schools, and eventually, I think there was a lot of struggle in trying to find myself in those first few years. So, moving here as a teenager, I wouldn't advise anybody to do that. Don't move to a different country as a teenager. You're still getting shaped up and you're still becoming. So it was pretty confusing for me. So I eventually went to SEMO as the first university. And after that, I stayed there for a year and decided I wanted to come back and be closer to home. And then I went to UMSL. I came back here, went to community college, then went to UMSL. And then it kind of took a while to graduate because I was financed in my own way too. Eventually I graduated from UMSL with a bachelor's in marketing in 2011. So it took me some years, and I had taken a break in between that. And through that, I was serving tables as my part-time job, and and that taught me a lot too as well. So, because I came here, I worked from the time I was 15. I came here and I got a job, and that's one of the things I loved about America. Like, I could just go there and start earning, and I could get a car at 16, which I did. Which I felt like, oh my God, I have a car, and I'm thinking my friends in Kenya don't have a car, So that was kind of cool. So I came here and I was pretty, I worked from the time I was young, from the time I got here, and dishwasher, fast food jobs. And then eventually it was waiting tables. And that was probably the last job I did until I started transitioning into my, starting to want to do work on marketing. But yeah, I think waiting tables, I learned a lot, and I have a lot of respect for that profession. Well, you work with people, and I think, and then plus you're working with food, something that's very important to people, and also helping people feel comfortable, and being able to provide what they need and all that. And I learned a lot about just American culture as well, because you learned a lot about culture when sitting at the dinner table. So I learned about, so to me, that was my education of the American culture and foods and how to cook. And, even I was able to elevate my own cook game because we had talented chefs that we worked with. But I think I learned a lot about the American culture there, and also, maybe even how to be a better marketer just by understanding people better. Yeah, it really was my people education. I think not this goes around in those circles that I think everybody should have one hour of college where they just wait tables or they deal with customers.
College took you a few years longer than it normally would. Were in that time were you working with going through that with absolute conviction, or were there moments of doubt because you were taking longer? What was that journey like?
Well, I think just maybe through teenagers. So I think moving here affected me more than I realized it did. So I think moving here at 15, and I think going through my 20s, I think I just struggled to just kind of find myself and not really being focused on what I needed to do or how to do it, and trying to adapt in a new country at the same time. It was all happening at the same time. At the same time, I needed to grow up. So I think the combination of that made a lot of things lag for me in life. I think I was very confused. I think I didn't know what life, honestly, I didn't understand what life was for a lot of time, because, here you come from this perception of what this is life as, and then you're thrown into a new country, new culture, and you're sort of like, here's what life is too. And you're like, okay, so is this whole thing made up? So, but that was my journey. So I think through that, I was finding myself, and through my early 30s, because late 20s, I realized I wanted to do marketing because I had a strong gravitation to it. I could always see opportunities. I think somebody made a comment to me one time when I told them I'm a marketer. They said, "You see the invisible." I was like, this guy gets it. And it's like, yeah, I see the invisible. I see opportunities. I see what could be. And I didn't know where that would take me, but I knew I had something in me that I gravitated to, and maybe only I liked. And because in college, my first marketing class, we had a group project, and I was like all in it. I was like, man, this is fun. And everybody else was like, this sucks. And I think that's when I was like, I guess maybe marketing is my thing. Yeah. So I just thought I need to grow what this talent, polish it, know how to communicate it, conceptualize it, share concepts and things like that. So what it's come to now is, I'm pretty passionate about growth. And the freedom growth can give organization. And my marketing, I apply towards growth. It's how can marketing be really, because my belief is that's when it's really meaningful, is when it can make an impact in helping organizations grow.